Panelists will share their insights, strategies, and programs their organizations are using to effectively prepare, hire, and integrate immigrant job seekers and employees into the labor force. Our discussion will be focused on solutions and best practices. Well, it's now my pleasure to introduce the three panelists who will share this virtual stage for our panel discussion. We have Louise Summers, Regional Vice President, Ottawa Central-RBC Royal Bank. Mengistab Tsegaye, Executive Director, World Skills Employment Center. And Steph Barlow, Chief People Officer for Iversoft. And in lieu of reading your bios, I'd like to start by asking each of you to briefly introduce yourself and your organization. You each have about a minute. And so we're going to begin with Louise. We'll then go to Steph and then Mengistab. So Louise, perhaps you can take it away.
Absolutely. And thank you very much. A big thank you to Henry Akanko and the co-chairs of HIO, Frank and Gay, for organizing this important summit and inviting me as being part of the panel. So I have been with RBC for over 30 years, all in the Ottawa market. And I am a proud proponent of diversity and inclusion. And today I will be sharing some best practices that we have on our team.
Steph.
Hi, thank you. I'm Steph Barlow. I'm the Chief People Officer at Iversoft. Iversoft is a digital consultancy and technology partner. We're known for our expertise in developing mobile applications, websites, and digital strategies. Aside from all that, I'm particularly proud of our work in breaking down the barriers to immigrant inclusion. We've earned consecutive Employer Excellence Awards from HIO. We just won the Waterstone McKay's Most Admired Corporate Cultures Award, and we're also included on Canadian HR Reporter's 5-star D&I list. So I'm here to share more of our practices, discuss the challenges we face, and explore some tangible solutions to create more inclusive workplaces together.
Okay, great to see you, Steph. Thanks so much. And Mengistab.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Great to see everyone. And Mengistab Tsegaye. I came to this great country as a refugee 40 years ago from Eritrea. I spent most of my career in the settlement sector as a frontline worker, as a liaison, community liaison with the City of Ottawa. I worked as a settlement manager with the Catholic Immigration Center. And for the last 27 years, I've been working with World Skills Employment Center. I'm a co-founder and executive director at WellSkills. So I'm here also to share some of the best practice that we've had in our community in terms of integrating newcomers to the workforce.
Okay. Mengistab, thanks so much. And I think I'm going to start with you, Mengistab, because World Skills is as you described, a lead employment delivery agency. Can you get us started by providing insights into the current state of immigrant talent in Ottawa, particularly against the backdrop of the federal government's goal to bring about 1.5 million immigrants to Canada in the next 3 years?
Okay, gladly. So the federal government has an ambitious target of welcoming 1.5 million immigrants in 2015. And this is a great opportunity to diversify our workforce. However, if we wanted to capitalize on this opportunity, it is going to require more strategic approach to attracting, recruiting, and integrating newcomers. We need to develop a unified approach across all levels of government and the private sector. So the attracting 1.5 million immigrants by 2025, for us, that time is already here. So we've seen about 36% increase in new client intake compared to last year. We're attracting more younger generation, 30 and below. There's about an 18% increase in that client profile compared to last year. The highly skilled immigrants is still the case. About 80% of the immigrants that we're attracting here in Ottawa have a bachelor's degree and master's degree, so that hasn't really changed. We're also attracting a huge number of asylum seekers It almost quadrupled in the last year in terms of the refugee claimants who are claiming asylum seekers in Canada. And this is also a group of people that are really struggling because they're not eligible for many federally funded programs. So we see a huge challenge in that area. In terms of the demographics, we are attracting a huge increase in the Francophone clients. We've seen about 81% increase compared to last year in our community. The top source of countries is also shifting. We see the sort of the top 10 immigrants that are coming into Canada. Morocco almost doubled. Nigeria, India, Algeria almost doubled. Ukraine, Cameroon almost tripled this year compared to last year. China, Iran. This probably explains the Francophone newcomers when you look at the source of immigrants. The intended occupation, we're attracting people in the business and finance sector, applied science, mainly engineering and IT, management, healthcare professionals, less nurses, administrative professionals, social, community, and government services, and education. Those are really the high demographics of the immigrants that are coming.
And Mengistab, just to follow up, like how effective would you say employers have been in tapping into the talent pool that we have in the city?
Well, while Ottawa is benefiting from large immigrant population, the gap between the skills newcomers possess and the jobs they held, many immigrants are overqualified for the current positions that they're holding. So we do have some encouraging stats in terms of people getting jobs within the federal government as well as the private sector in the last 3 years. So we've seen a tremendous increase. But we've also seen an increase in the underemployment of immigrants. We see a lot of people driving Ubers and so on. So that number is also increasing. So if you ask me personally, are we effective? I would have to say we need to do a better job in that. So I don't think we're as effective as we should be. So there are a lot of good practice that I will be sharing later in terms of what employers are doing. But for now, I just wanted to end there. But I also wanted to emphasize that while we're talking about the whole employment and integrating immigrants, one of the biggest challenges that we're going to face as a community is really the lack of affordable housing. That's really, really a critical situation. It's not just about shortage of houses, but an acute shortage of affordable housing. And this has a greater impact on welcoming and integrating immigrants. So I'll probably end here and share some of the best practices later.
Okay, no, thank you. Steph, I'm going to turn to you now. For several years, the Ottawa Business Growth Survey has consistently identified the availability of skilled labor as a top challenge for local businesses. Despite that trend, your company, Iversoft, appears to have mastered effective strategies for attracting immigrant talent. Can you outline some specific initiatives or strategies that have proven successful in this regard?
For sure. So at Iversoft, we've really our approach to tapping into the skilled immigrant labor market has been really multifaceted. Obviously, I feel like if you're here today, you know that there is a wealth of talent available. So for us, it was really engaging in those key partnerships with organizations like HIO, World Skills, Intact, all which actually have their finger on the pulse of immigrant talent and are well positioned to bridge that gap between skilled individuals and employers. They're funded by the government for the most part. So I feel like a lot of employers still aren't taking advantage of that opportunity. And they provide us with that large, diverse talent pool that's eager to contribute and excel in the tech community. We really see it as a symbiotic relationship. They support immigrant talent, and in turn, we leverage their expertise to enhance our workforce diversity, which for us is vital for innovation and growth.
Aside from this, I honestly can't state enough how important visibility is. Social media is not a new thing. Potential candidates are looking at you on all of the platforms that your organization is on. So I can't encourage enough to make sure that you're showcasing your organizational culture and DE&I initiatives through social media, your website, but not just saying like, we're so-and-so and we support D&I. The real key is to use authentic stories, authentic narratives, testimonials from your team, real experiences. That kind of transparency is not only helping potential applicants visualize themselves thriving in your organization, but it also fosters this environment of trust and growth before they're even stepping through your door. You can make that genuine connection through a story. If it's resonating with someone's values and aspirations, particularly those of immigrant professionals seeking a supportive and progressive environment, they're going to look for those kinds of things on your that kind of presence on your social media, on your website. And we're seeing that it can't just be that very basic, like I said, that very basic, we support this, like that, hey, we did a post for women, International Women's Day or Black History Month or whatever. It can't just be that. It has to be actual authentic stories and authentic testimonials from staff who are like, no, this organization has actually helped me grow, helped me thrive. So forming those connections before your candidates are even in the door is really crucial.
Steph, there are people who are in our audience right now. They're employers. They're listening to you, and they're saying, we want some of the secret sauce that Iversoft has. Iversoft has clearly been very successful in integrating immigrants into the workplace. You mentioned that term, organizational culture. And so I want you to kind of expand on what is it about the organizational culture at Iversoft that allows immigrants to kind of maybe seamlessly, integrate into the organization. What are some things that maybe other organizations can learn? What is it that makes you unique?
For sure. So I'd say obviously your organizational culture is all you have when it comes to hiring, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to attracting talent. All you really have is that organizational culture. That's what's going to keep people in your organization. So for us, really, our culture thrives on inclusivity, growth, and shared success. We're not just hiring talent, we're nurturing it, we're celebrating each individual's unique journey and the fresh perspectives they bring. So some specifics.
Yes.
Personalized professional development. That is an absolute cornerstone of our approach. Every employee, regardless of their background, level, seniority, whatever, they all undergo professional development plans where they're diving into self-assessment, identifying their strengths, areas for growth, professional aspirations. These PDPs aligned with our kind of company objectives help them form a roadmap for their career trajectory within Iversoft. So we obviously have all of our roles mapped out. We have ladders, frameworks, competencies, etc. But the nice thing is that it's not just like, oh, hey, I want to be a senior developer. These are the goals I'm going to set. It's like, no, these are actually my personal aspirations. Maybe there's a particular language that I want to pursue. Things along those lines. We actually are able to set individualized goals. We definitely leverage software. I will say if there's any employers here that are a little bit smaller, back in the day, we did use like Excel and things like that. So don't think that this is something that can't be done with a smaller budget. A lot of HR people end up doing, I think it's like, no offense to Louise, I realize RBC is a massive organization, but there are so many organizations out there that are sub 100 people, sub 50 people, and they don't have a big dedicated fancy budget. So I like to make sure that the things that we're putting out there aren't just, this is what you can do if you have a ton of money. It's, hey, some of these things can just be done with tools you're probably already using for something else in your business. So if you're using like G Suite for your email, you automatically have access to things like Google Docs or Google Sheets or things along those lines. If you're using Teams, you probably have Office, and a lot of these things can be recreated in those. Saying we have software that we're utilizing now, but we didn't always have it. But the software is fantastic. It tracks that progress of those goals, and for us, it's actually tied right into their one-on-ones, because the key to setting goals isn't just setting goals, it's making sure that there's consistent support and accountability to your staff when they're setting those goals. This way, every employee's journey is visible, encouraged, no one's left behind or overlooked. And as the HR person, I have all the analytics to make sure that every goal is being checked in on. I'd say it also just kind of like, I don't want to talk forever. I could talk forever. But last is another kind of free thing is making sure that your company's vision values are tied in not just innovation, but inclusivity, and that you're actually practicing what you preach. My favorite example is my absolute favorite company value at Iversoft is a good idea can come from anywhere. It's not a value it's not just a value we preach, we actively practice this. We ensure that every voice can be heard, every suggestion is given consideration, and that the best ideas are what drive us forward, because that's what we want. We want the best ideas. So every leader is trained to facilitate inclusivity in discussions, and in ideation, they make sure they're checking in with every individual at the table. If they're noticing someone's maybe not comfortable sharing in a public setting, they check in with them privately afterwards to be like, hey, do you have any way you want to input on this? It's just that kind of inclusivity is what creates an environment where all employees, including immigrant employees, can shine and really contribute meaningfully.
Okay, thanks so much, Steph. Louise, RBC Royal Bank has demonstrated leadership in valuing diversity. We know that it earned recognition with the HIO Employer Excellence Award in 2018. What key strategies have contributed to the success of fostering a diverse and inclusive workplace, particularly in welcoming immigrants?
Thank you. I mean, that we are a large organization, as Steph has mentioned, but it starts at the top of the house. And I would say 10, 15 years ago, maybe longer, it has to start with our leaders, the C-suite, and speaking around the importance of diversity and inclusion. It is part of our 5 key values at RBC. Some of the early work we put into play was that every employee needed to complete a diversity and inclusion course, where it really allowed us to check our unconscious biases. Are they all eliminated? Most likely not, but it helped us get to an even framework with all employees across the organization. The other piece is part of our culture is speaking up for inclusion. Everybody has a voice at the table. Steph mentioned that in one of in their activities, and the importance that everyone has a voice, everyone is equal sitting at the table. And when I bring it down to here in the Ottawa market, some of the activities we put into place was called diversity dialogues. And I'll give an example of myself matched up maybe about 5 years ago with a new younger individual in the organization that we saw, with a talented future. And now I'm proud to say that she sits among us at the senior management level here in the Ottawa market supporting. So we implemented a lot of those types of strategies. The other piece too that is key is that we must represent the clients that we serve. And so when we take a look at the markets we're in, does my team represent the people that they serve? And I'm extremely proud to say that 60% of all of our new hires, if not more, are newcomers to Canada. The diversity of language, the diversity of skill set is extremely impressive. Have we hired individuals that are probably have more education that's required for the roles? Most likely. But what we also have is career progression. And so as they join our teams, we identify the skill set that they have and then introduce them to others in different lines of business across the organization. And then when I take a look at my senior leadership team, it is diversified. I have over 40% of my senior leaders who joined RBC as newcomers as well too. So it's ingrained from that perspective. Also, we talk about authenticity, and Steph, you clearly articulated that as well. What are we doing as activities within our units, within the organization, to celebrate and recognize everyone's diversity and important milestones throughout the year? So whether it's Ramadan, Lunar New Year, Black History Month, etc., but doing it in a very authentic way. So there are activities, I'm going to say, peppered throughout the year. We celebrate together, we learn, we're stronger for it, and we are able to support all of our employees from that perspective. The other piece that we've introduced of late is we have a newcomer team dedicated to welcoming newcomers to Canada, helping them on their path to whether that's home ownership, whether that's information around fraud, whether that's helping them with budgeting, etc. And extremely proud with their connections with settlement agencies and helping identify individuals that can join RBC from that perspective. So those are just some of the activities that we've implemented over the last number of years that help build our diversity and inclusiveness here at RBC.
Louise, you've just identified embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion as being a core value at RBC. The truth is, though, at this moment in time, we're seeing a backlash against DEI across the continent. We know, for example, the University of Florida just decided to eliminate all DEI positions on that campus. We know, for example, that the U.S. House Office of Diversity and Inclusion that launched in March 2020, like in the wake of George Floyd, has been disbanded as part of a federal government spending bill. We know that there are calls in this country now for a rollback of some of these kind of DEI initiatives. So I'm wondering if maybe you can make the argument, and particularly the economic argument, for DEI. Why does it matter? Why is it important for RBC to be pursuing this path when it seems as if at this moment some corporations are going in another direction in this continent?
Thanks for the question. The argument for is that I think our DEI has never been stronger. Adrian, from that perspective, we continue to have employer resource groups that are coordinated across multiple different business lines. And it's important to represent and continue to represent. It makes us stronger and better as an organization when we have a DEI inclusiveness program within the structure. And
does it make you more money? Does it make you more money?
I'm not at the highest levels of RBC, but what I will say is that it helps us support different ethnic groups across the marketplace. And my heart and my mind says that it helps support them to establish themselves here in Canada. So from that perspective, I would say yes, it supports the organization. It supports our newcomers to Canada have a strong footing and have a great start of their Canadian life here with us. So I say yes.
Mengistab and Steph, can you weigh in on that question?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say for us especially, I think there's something to be said that diversity does make you more money. It does impact your bottom line. And I think the reality is I feel like I attend a lot of HR conferences, and you hear the term culture fit so many times. And personally, I hate that term because I think people take it the wrong way. The reality is we should be looking at culture add. You should be looking at people who are bringing something new to your organization, a new perspective, a new approach, because ultimately, if you're just hiring a bunch of people who think like you and act like you and want to have a beer with you at the end of the day, you're not being challenged. You're not looking at new approaches to problems. So for us, an organization that's developing applications for people that are being used all over the world by different ethnicities, different everything. We need those different perspectives. We need to know how other people have solved problems. So I'd say yes, D&I is the easiest way to bring in new perspectives that you need to challenge the ones that you've already created. Otherwise, like the biggest driver of innovation in any organization is going to be challenge and challenging yourself. The only way to do that is to bring in new perspectives that are going to challenge the ones that are already there. So I think it's easy to say that D&I impacts your bottom line in a massive way, because like you can't really just train yourself on having a new opinion. I can't suddenly be like, okay, I'm going to sit and I'm going to read and I'm going to understand what it's like to have like lived in this certain environment, to have not been able to access. We recently did an app on accessing mental health resources in remote communities. I can't just sit here and know what that means. So yeah, I think that's an easy statement.
Mengistab, maybe you could weigh in.
Yeah,
And
I think well said. I echo what the two previous speakers said, but I think at the end of the day is our workforce need to resemble the customers that we're serving. And I think that's a very, very, a strong message. So I think it has been proven the organizations that embrace EDI are actually accelerating. This is really a well-known fact. So it is simple. Yes, it does have, it does increase the value of the organizations, and diversity is really, it works for those who embrace it.
Okay. Well, I want to go to the second round of questions. And the first question in the second round is for you, Louise. A common barrier newcomers face in finding commensurate employment is, as was mentioned by Dr. Banerjee, the employer's preference for Canadian work experience and educational credentials. How does RBC get around this in your recruitment of newcomers into your organization? And what practices or policies have been successful in ensuring that diverse skill sets are fully utilized within the organization?
Thank you. And I can speak to, I'll speak to here in the Ottawa at the retail level, and I'll speak to at different job opportunities in different business lines. Depending on the role that's coming in, RBC does hire organizations to evaluate the credentials of the individuals going into those roles. Here, when we do recruitment, we look at the individual's resume, right? So they might have financial experience in another country. And so that, and then we look at also at soft skills. And Steph, you mentioned soft skills a lot in your comments. And that's important too, that we be able to kind of review that when we're doing interviewing. But as we welcome them into the organization, we also help support with the development of Canadian credentials that are required for some of the roles that we have. And so we map a path forward and help support finance the courses that are required for them to continue to grow with the organization. So from that perspective, there's lots of support in helping them continue to grow. And as I said, from that moment on, if let's say someone has commercial background in financial services in another country, it is our role as leaders then to help introduce them to other parts of our business, other different business lines where they'll be able to continue to grow and apply the knowledge that they've earned and been accredited for in other parts of the countries that they've arrived from. So from that perspective, I think there's a lot of support in helping them continue to grow with the organization from that perspective.
Steph, still on the same question. How does Iversoft handle considerations regarding international education and work experience in your recruitment process?
For sure. So I'm going to pre-apologize to everyone on this call. This is one of my soapbox topics, as I like to call it. About 7 years ago, we actually removed educational requirements from all roles. Why? Frankly, the idea that a degree is an absolute must-have for a successful career is archaic and exclusionary. It overlooks individuals who can't afford a university education, those who are self-taught, immigrants struggle with incredible careers who are struggling to get their qualifications recognized, those who have changed careers, fallen into a career, got an education in something, and then didn't want to do it at the end. Ultimately, at Iversoft, we place a premium on skills and experience, recognizing that true experience is actually just gained from hands-on practice. We're not looking for qualifications on paper. We're looking for passion, innovation, drive. And honestly, I challenge everyone here to review your own educational requirements, because frankly, looking at the jobs on the market right now, I am still astounded by how many require a university degree as a baseline must-have. Unless you're hiring for a profession that requires a certification, I'm not saying let's remove educational requirements for physicians and things like that. If you require certification to perform the role, then yes, definitely keep educational requirements. If you do not require certification for your role, why do you have educational requirements to begin with? Are you looking for the skills that sometimes people associate with having a university education? Like I've been told that, oh, it's because we're looking for research skills and that higher level of thinking. Okay, well then that's a skill. Look for the skill. Don't look for the piece of paper that they got for having that.
Although Steph, there's an argument for it, is there not? And the argument might be this. The argument might be that, you know, finishing a university degree or finishing a college program is an indication of your commitment, or maybe it's an indication of your resilience, or it's an indication of your ability to finish a project. And if we know that you spent that time, you know, focused on this goal and you met it, well, then that says something about you, and we want you in our organization.
I'd say that's kind of short-sighted. Like the CEO of our organization is a university dropout. He's sold successfully sold several organizations without a university education. Frankly, he got bored at university, left to start a company. And I think that says a lot more than the fact that he could have stuck around for the rest of those. I think he dropped out after 1 year. If he stuck around for 3 more years to finish it up, I'd rather have the CEO that has that track record of success and fundraising and building organizations than one that, yeah, sure, he went to school for 4 years, but what else is there? I have a master's in Roman history and archaeology. Look how much I'm using it today, everybody. And I think, especially in HR, so many of us just fell into our careers. Like HR isn't necessarily something that a lot of people pursue. I've met devs that just were self-taught. They liked to play with things. They liked to build things. And so they just figured it out on their own. And didn't necessarily, or maybe then they went to college to do something different or something fun, but ultimately that's not the area that they pursued. I think the ability to be passionate and teach yourself something and love something says so much about an individual and their drive. And I'm not saying that having a university education is bad. I'm not saying that going to university is a bad thing. I'm saying that employers need to look at why they have those skills. Like what is it that you're requiring a university degree for? Like I think a lot of federal positions still require the minimum of a BA. Well, why do we still require a minimum of a BA? What if someone's coming into the country with a college degree or Maybe it's not, they can't, they're really struggling to get that that equivalent for it. Then what? I think there's just, it's an old system, and I think it really needs to be addressed. I'm seeing a lot more in tech organizations eliminating those requirements, but I'm challenging more organizations. Really look at, why do you have it there? Because yeah, skills, there's so many ways to achieve skills. And you might be eliminating the perfect candidate because they just don't have that piece of paper.
I'm going to
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly move on to Mengistab, but I
Yes.
wanted to respond very, very quickly. Steph, I wanted to say, as an advocate of the humanities, I think Roman history has served you well. Very, very, very clearly, the way you're articulating yourself. And I'll also say this, though, and this is to speak about my own profession. The most successful journalists in this country, didn't have a university degree.
There you go.
Peter Mansbridge did not go to university, did not, graduate from university.
Exactly.
And that's just that's a fact.
No, that's it.
So that's, yeah. So that's,
if anyone says that Peter Mansbridge is a bad journalist, you're wrong. That's the reality. There's so much more that can be learned from just doing and just figuring it out. There's online courses for every topic out there now. So if you're really passionate, and I know there are some of the people on this call are people looking for new roles. If there's something you're really passionate about, check out some of the free courses online. Google different universities, they all offer free certifications. And I encourage you to pursue those instead.
Well, Steph, I can say in the chat, you're being called a revolutionary, which is not a bad thing in my book.
There we go. That's my Roman history.
Okay.
My Roman history there.
Okay. Indeed. Mengistab, please highlight a few of World Skills programs that specifically address the concerns that employers have about the job readiness of newcomers. How do these programs continue bridging the gap between immigrant skills and employer expectations?
All right, gladly, Adrian. So World Skills has been providing a wide range of employment support services around the job readiness, soft skills, both in Canada and pre-arrival. That includes also language training, soft skills, quite a range of programs. All of those programs are really funded federally, provincially, including United Way and other private donors and private sector. So, and over the years, we've identified many best practices to support employers, the small, medium, and large employers. And what I like to do is really to maybe share some examples of the type of creative ideas that employers have been implementing. And I will share some examples. And I would like to say we're grateful for the number of initiatives and partners. For example, the federal government has implemented a federal internship. It's a paid internship program. 14 years ago. I wanted to share about that a little bit. So this program started in Ottawa. Actually, it was born at the Employer Council of Champions. The commitment and the initiative was introduced at one of the Employer Champions meeting. And the idea was basically to do a pilot project to bring in 10 newcomers under the paid internship program with one department at HRDC. That program, 14 years later, it has been expanded over 52 federal departments. The program from Ottawa has moved into about 7 regions across the country. It has expanded to include newcomer youth. And every year, this program is integrating about 100 newcomers into the federal government. And I would say about 72% of those newcomers who joined the federal government under this paid internship, which is supposed to be a casual and temporary, 72% of them are moving into a permanent position within the federal government. So this is just an example. And the program was designed right from the beginning to succeed because it comes with all the support mechanism in terms of onboarding newcomers. They're matched with a mentor, with the coach inside. The managers who oversee those programs do receive, cross-cultural training. So there's all the support mechanism to really make it successful. So that's just an example. TD Canada Trust, again, a member of the Employer Council of Champions, launched a mentorship program for newcomers in the finance sector. And in the last 11 years, they've mentored about 270 newcomers, of which out of the 270, 82 of them were hired within TD. And the other about 87 newcomers in the financial sector, they were also hired by other financial institutions. So this is, again, an example of very creative and proactive engagement of employers. Accenture is another partner who's been, again, working with us for the last 8 years. And they've been mentoring newcomers in the IT sector. Again, the success rate in that program, about 52% of those newcomers are hired or obtained employment in the IT sector. RBC, Louise would know this in detail, has been working with us for many years, but over the last 2 years, they've launched a sponsorship program to train newcomers to access project management certification, knowing that the project management certification actually enhances their employment skills. Again, RBC has invested about $70,000 towards upgrading and upskilling immigrants, and that is also producing and encouraging results in terms of the employment. IBM, they have a global commitment to educate about 30 million people around the world by 2030. And we've been working with them also helping newcomers to access training, free training. And this year, IBM has signed a memorandum of understanding with WorldSkills to basically facilitate access for newcomers to access the training provided by IBM under their WorldSkills. And again, they're also making financial contribution, and WorldSkills will be basically facilitating access to the training provided by IBM. They have over 500 training that are accessible for newcomers and others. Those training include data analytics and artificial intelligence, project management, and a number of other short and long-term training. Again, IBM is also making financial contribution towards this for us to operate that program. So those are really some of the examples. And I spoke about the ASDC is also making loans available for internationally professionals to access training. And a newcomer can access up to $30,000 towards upgrading their skills. But to really fully utilize this training, we need to work with our colleges and universities to be able to develop training that are relevant to our local labor market. So we need to do more work around that. So those are really some of the examples, but we're working with over 200 employers who are also doing all kinds of different initiatives in the sector. So maybe I'll just leave it there, and if there are further questions, I can elaborate.
Very quickly, Mengistab, I'm wondering though, if you can maybe respond to the Steph kind of throwing down the gauntlet, the proverbial gauntlet there, when she said that we no longer need to require educational credentials. How do you respond to that? And I'm curious, Louise, as well. Like, what's your response to that suggestion, that provocation?
I 100% agree with her. There may be some specific areas where it's a requirement by the by the regulatory body, or by the sector or the industry. So we're not completely overruling that. This is not necessarily. But I think to entirely focus on those kind of requirements, it actually hurts employers themselves, because they're not looking for the passion, the integrity, the commitment, the relevance of the skills. And the attitude, and we know all of those things contribute greatly. So not just to look at the educational background, but to look at what is really the relevant skills for that particular job. It's like the Canadian experience. That's another requirement. So we have employers who've been very proactive, and I share those examples, who are doing all kinds of creative activity to integrate immigrants. But there are those employers who are also stuck on, we need a Canadian experience. So if you're looking for a Canadian experience, obviously you're not open to hiring newcomers, because newcomers don't come with the Canadian experience. They come with a global experience. So this is also another aspect of the education and the Canadian experience, all those different layers. So I 100% agree with her that, in addition to those requirements, we should look at other attributes that are really necessary for, in hiring a successful employee.
Louise, do you and your comrades at RBC, do you agree with this idea that educational credentials should be put in the dustbin of history? Like, do you think, or should be relegated to the dustbin of history?
Well, I agree with the comments in the sense that just because we're a financial industry, it doesn't mean that we're looking for financial experience. If it's there, it's great, but we don't lead with that when we take a look at their individuals' resumes, because I agree, it's based on attitude, it's based on a lot of those soft skills, because we can teach anything when they join the organization. So I agree with Steph's comments and Mengi's comments as well too. Some of the greatest employees, I would say, that have grown with the organization did not have a financial degree when they joined us. And I would take Steph's background any time of day in joining our organization. Because I said we help support growth in finance through other courses that we can provide them with other education from that perspective. So I agree. It's not a requirement, and it should be removed. It's not right now. We do take a look at resumes. That's how we kind of take a look. We look at language skills, of course, from that perspective, but whether they have a degree or not isn't important.
Okay. Mengistab, World Skills partners with various agencies to deliver the One Hub initiative, supporting newcomers interested in entrepreneurship. Could you briefly elaborate on how the One Hub initiative facilitates newcomer self-employment?
Okay, gladly. So maybe just to give you context, I think according to the Business Development Bank of Canada, increases in the immigration have been also accompanied by significant growth in the number of entrepreneurs. The stats from 2018, 2019 clearly shows that 1 in 4 business owners in Canada were newcomers. So against this backdrop, we've been trying to develop the entrepreneurship program for newcomers. So the challenge that they face is the difficult navigating the Canadian business landscape, insufficient knowledge of the Canadian business practices, and lack of professional network and mentorship, as well as lack of access to capital for the investment. So this program basically fills a gap in services and provides clients with a single entry point to benefit from the comprehensive package of support. So WorldSkills, OCISO, OCLF, we've been helping aspiring newcomers, entrepreneurs to benefit from the training and support provided on this program. So specifically, we provide a wide range of training with subject matter experts in business development, market research, mentorship support, legal and financial aspect of the business, accounting, referral to other resources, for example, to PARO to support immigrant women entrepreneurs, to OCLF Invest Ottawa. So it's really connecting immigrants with different resources in the community. So we also provide a business incubation, and the business incubation is really for people who wanted to launch their businesses before they start their business. If they need access to space, telephone, internet, computer, and all of the softwares for starting a business, whether it's an accounting software, we provide that for 3 months. So they can really successfully launch their business out of this space, and they can use that space to launch their business for the first 3 months. And I wanted to acknowledge RBC and RBC Foundation for actually sponsoring that incubation space. So over the course of 3.5 years in doing this program, we've helped about 180 newcomers to complete the 6-week entrepreneurship training. We've matched about 70 newcomers with mentors. These are business mentors. In most cases, we try to match the newcomer entrepreneur with a similar business industry so that they can fully benefit from their experience. And we have about 55 newcomers have launched their businesses. And of course, not everyone that completes those programs is going to start a business, because starting a business is a long process. For some, it is something that they would gather the information, learn about the sector, and starting a business might be something down the road. So in the meantime, they do need employment support services. So they also have access to our various employment support services.
Okay. Louise, within the context of broader inclusion in the economy, some newcomers turn to entrepreneurship as a way of self-employment. Can you share briefly how RBC is supporting immigrant entrepreneurs succeed beyond access to credit?
Absolutely, and it is huge. What we heard Menga say, 1 in 4 are more likely to open and start a new business here in Canada. So we have lots of resources to help entrepreneurs to start their business. It can go from validating an idea to developing a business plan, or even determining the right structure that's required to open the business. In collaboration with RBC Future Launch and the Globe and Mail and Western University, there's a free online course that individuals can take and runs them through an 8-step process to entrepreneurship. And so that's a free resources that's accessible to everyone in Canada. Also, we have services. We partner with the organization called Owner to provide discounted fees to register a business and discounted fees for account ownership. We also have services that we call Beyond Banking. So it might help them hire individuals. It might help them find grants to start their business, and also with marketing ideas to help support with their trajectory and the business growth of their organization. And we also here in Ottawa our commercial team partners with accountants and lawyers. So I'll give you an example. We've partnered with Welsh and we'll host advice events. We call them advice events, where we bring newcomers to the table who are interested in starting a business and what's accessible to them as well. And I know there's an individual here in the Ottawa market, Carla Brion, who we're going to be partnering with, and is very well known in the entrepreneurship world for newcomers, and she hosts a number of events as well too. So from that perspective, and then of course, many of our commercial account managers here are newcomers themselves, having run businesses maybe before coming to Canada and then joining RBC. So there's a lot of lived experiences that can be shared with newcomers that are coming in to open businesses as well too. So from that perspective, there's a great synergy in helping support those starting a new business in Canada.
I'll kind of end our conversation with this question, I'll start with you, Steph. What message would you like to send to employers about proactively and effectively attracting, recruiting, and integrating immigrant talent into the workplace?
For sure. Honestly, I think, Alam, I loved your comment about Elon Musk and all those like kind of detractors, because I think that's true. In the media right now, we're seeing so much backlash from these big names. And so I think the key is just not to let the big names and the big voices win. The reality is that leveraging immigrant talent is not just good practice, it's strategic imperative for growth and innovation. These individuals are bringing critical perspectives that can invigorate your operations, help your bottom line.
So connect with the immigrant serving organizations that have been represented here today, connect with World Skills, connect with, I think I saw like OCISO and OSC, like connect with all these people in the chat, because they are there to support your organization, and they can be allies for you in this endeavor. Embracing immigrant talent is an investment in your company's future. It's a step towards a dynamic, diverse, and thriving workforce. And I love that I've kind of created a bunch of little radicals in the chat, because the reality is we do need to disrupt the norm. We need to change how work and happens in Canada. So honestly, connect with me on LinkedIn, because the chat has been phenomenal, and I want to keep chatting with so many of you. So please connect with me on LinkedIn, because I'd love to keep talking, and because the conversation is how we're going to make change.
Louise?
I'm just going to add, our economy needs to continue to grow, and I'm inspired by the individuals I meet each and every single day through our recruitment. And so I agree, diversity and inclusion, in my opinion, is here to stay and to continue to grow. It's a must. And so, again, Steph, you're so articulate. I'm going to echo a lot of what your words are. So yes, please do connect with myself, and, please introduce me to individuals from your organizations. That's how we become stronger and better as a society. And I'm just thrilled to have been able to be a part of this panel. And you can see, and hopefully you feel the passion that I have for newcomers and in keeping our organization strong and valuable as a member of society. So thank you.
Louise, for Steph, it's all about the Latin and the Roman history. I think that explains it. It's not really a dead language. It's not really a dead language. Mengistab, final word to you.
All right. So I think for me is really, we need to embrace the potential of immigrants as key factors for our economic growth. I think that's really something that we need to state. And we need to have really a unified approach in terms of all levels of government, newcomers, and so on. This is not really a task for one sector, for one level of government. It has to be a joint effort. And I would also encourage employers really to join the circle of champions. I shared a number of examples, a number of initiatives have been shared today. So there are employers who are really leading the way, and we need to join those circle of champions. The success of all of those examples that we gave them, it didn't happen because of the organization or the corporate. It happened because of a champion within that corporate. So we really need champions, and we need to build a circle of champions. In terms of World Skills, I just wanted to share, to plug in a new program that we're starting. We're funded by the Canadian Heritage. It's a new project to create an inclusive and equitable workplace for newcomers. It's funded by the Canadian Heritage. It's a one-year program. And our purpose is to engage employers, to attract, recruit, and retain immigrants, and also to help them really to create an inclusive workplace for newcomers and for all, and especially for smaller organizations who don't really have the capacity. We will be able to help and partner to expand this program. So if you're really interested in this program and other ways to engage with World Skills and with other partners, I'm happy to connect with you. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Mengistab. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Steph. This has been an enriching discussion. All of you have been champion panelists. So please join me in extending our gratitude to our esteemed panelists for their invaluable insights into best practices for immigrant employment. Thank you all most sincerely.